Hi, this is Nick Freitas with Liberty Rising, and today we're going to talk a little bit about what we believe as liberty-minded conservatives. Not what we're told we believe, but what we actually believe. So what we're told we believe is, again, you're greedy, you're mean-spirited, you're evil, you're quite possibly just a horrible human being. That's not actually true, but that is what we hear in politics, academia, journalism, Hollywood, music, and pretty much everything else that you run into nowadays. So how do we combat that? Well, a lot of conservatives, a lot of liberty-minded people jump right into this whole idea of, well, no, let me explain to you why my tax policy is better economically for everyone. That's not a bad approach, but the problem is you're not really talking to your audience, you're preaching to the choir. So how do we get someone to understand where we're really coming from? Well, I like to share a story that I once experienced where I was sitting on a plane next to a very nice, very intelligent woman who was also very liberal. And we got to discussing about different policy positions. And as we went through this conversation, I finally looked at her at one point and I said, here's what I find so interesting about this conversation. You and I have both identified the same problems: poverty, violence. We want to be able to address these things. We've also identified the same end states. We want people to be happy, healthy, prosperous, and free. The difference between our two positions is that you're a lot more comfortable with violence than I am. Now, as you can imagine, she wasn't very happy with me saying that, but she kept her composure and asked me to explain myself. And so I explained it this way. When you and I see a tragedy, when I see it, I look at it and I think to myself, I have a personal obligation to this person. I need to help them. Maybe I dedicate my time, maybe I dedicate my money or my resources. And then maybe I'll come to you and I'll say, would you like to help? Maybe you say yes, maybe you say no. But regardless of what you say, you get to leave in peace. You see that same problem and you think to yourself, oh my gosh, these people need help. I'm going to set up multiple government programs and then, Nick, I'm going to raise your taxes. So what happens if I say no? Do I get to leave in peace? No. You'll deprive me of liberty and you'll deprive me of property. Not because I didn't want to help, but because I didn't want to help the way that you want me to. How do you square that with you being a tolerant person? She looked at me for a second and then she said, I've never thought of it that way. And we were able to continue the conversation with this understanding. We had identified the same problems. We had very similar end states. What we were talking about was a process. And we wanted to focus on a process that put the emphasis on volunteering with one another, cooperation. That happens in the private sector. That happens when free people are able to work together in order to come up with new and innovative ideas in order to serve their fellow citizens. And we wanted to stay away from coercive or violent solutions. That's typically how the government tries to solve problems, is by forcing people to do things, oftentimes many of whom don't want to do whatever it is the government happens to be suggesting. It's not to say that government doesn't have a role in society, but it has to be limited, and we as citizens always have to keep in mind that every time the government acts, it does so with the threat of force, and that's why we have to keep it within its proper boundaries. I'm Nick Freitas with Liberty Rising. Please sign up for some of our classes on messaging, organizing to win, and planning to win. We look forward to working with you.